Yeah, so the idea is that the if this is basically a consumer's budget line, this is a budget line, then the optimal bundle is the one at which the indifference curve is tangent to the budget line. So indifference curve for some utility level U star is tangent to the budget line. So how do I find this bundle? Let me call this bundle as X star comma Y star. So the whole point is how to find this bundle. So U star is not the important thing. Okay, so our job is not to find the optimum utility. That is what you need to understand. The aim is not to find U star because the utility value is not really something tangible. Okay, I mean, I could do a monotonic transformation and this utility level could be doubled without doing anything, right? So it's not the U star that I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is this X star Y star. So the question is, how do I find this X star Y star? This is the question. So in general, I need to find these two unknowns. And our knowledge from system of equations tells us that in order to find two unknowns, we need two equations. Right, we need two equations. Now, how do I find these two equations? So the first equation is going to be the fact coming from the fact that this point, it lies. So the point X star comma Y star is on the budget line, which basically gives me the equation that Px, that X star Y star should satisfy this equation. All right, so let me remove this thing. Which means that I should be equal to Px times X star plus Py times Y star. Okay. Now the next thing is that this at this X star Y star, there is a tangency which is happening here. So the point from tangency is that the slope of the IC at X star Y star should be equal to slope of the budget. Right, and we know that slope of IC is nothing but minus of MRS, negative of MRS, and slope of budget line, since this is the equation of the budget line, the slope of this thing is minus Px upon Py. And then you can cancel the negatives and what you get is MRS equals to price ratio. So these are the two equations. This is the equation of the budget line. This is the equation of MRS equals to price ratio. And these two equations together give me X star Y star. The important thing here to understand is that how do I go from something that I know about X star Y star and convert it into equation, because this is what is going to come in handy. Now I could just ask you to memorize these two equations, but that's only going to help you if the question comes in a generic fashion. But most of these entrance exams don't ask generic questions. They are going to ask you something which is going to be thought provoking. So in such situations, what you need to understand is that if you have two unknowns, you need two equations. To identify two equations, you have to find certain properties about this point X star Y star. So what can you say about these points? You can say that this point lies on budget line, which gives you equation number one. You can say that this point is the point of tangency, which gives you equation number two. So this is how you need to think about problems in economics, and that will help you even in questions which don't seem very characteristic economic type of questions. Okay. So that is for the two goods case. And now there are going to be situations where, so this is the ideal case. This is the well-behaved preferences. So what are well-behaving preferences? Well-behaving preferences are preferences which are convex, and they go from positive infinity slope to zero slope. Okay, so so these are certain properties about well-behaved preferences. Now we don't have to learn all these properties, but the thing is that when the preferences are well-behaving, you have a situation of a unique optima. Unique optima means there's going to be a single point which is going to be the best point, and it is going to be this point of tangency. But there are situations which happen like this. So these are non-well behaving preferences. Okay, I mean, there's no such term as non-well behaving, but well behaving preferences are very commonly used terms. So these come under the category of preferences which don't behave well. All right. So look at these preferences. Now, when I'm trying to find X star comma Y star, the two equations that I'm looking at is budget line and MRS equals to price ratio. That is basically tangency. So I'm looking for points on the budget line where the budget line and the indifference curve are tangent. But as you can see from this situation, there are 2 points which are which are satisfying the condition of tangency on the budget line. So when I solve for X star Y star in this case, I will get 2 solutions. Okay, so in such a situation, what needs to be done is that after you get these multiple solutions, you have to substitute and find which of these things is better. Let's say there's some utility function. This point A comes out to be as 2,4, and this point comes out to be as, let's say, 3,3. So just you find the utility value at 2,4 and find the utility value at 3,3, and you compare them. Which of these is larger? And that would be a final answer. So this happens when you have multiple solutions. Now this is another case. So in this case, what you will get is no solution. The idea is that there is no point. So all your indifference curves, they look like this. The budget line looks like this. So budget line is never tangent to the indifference curves. So if this is the situation, then you have the corner solution case. Then the ideal solution is going to be the corner solution. Okay, so basically, if I want to break this down into types of cases, yeah. So there's the well-behaving case, and there's the not well-behaving case. So in the well-behaving case, you always have a unique solution. In the non-well-behaving case, you can have further 2 situations. You can have greater than 1 solution, or you can have 0 solutions. So in case of greater than 1 solution, you have to substitute and check. And in case of no solution, what you need to do is you need to check the corners. So what I mean by checking the corners is that there are 2 corners. These are the corner things. So you can check these corners. So these side of cases will come on a case-to-case basis. So we'll have to basically go through experience and find out that in different cases what we're going to do. So we'll look at a bunch of different situations, and we'll try to understand how to do such non-well-behaving cases. Yeah. But let us for now assume that our preferences are well-behaving, and let us stretch the argument. Till now, what we did is we tried to find the utility maximization in 2 goods case, just 2 goods X and Y. We said that this is good X, this is good Y, this is the budget line, so find the tangency point. So everything is very easy in 2 goods case, but what if we have more than 2 goods? What if the number of goods is more than 2? What happens in this case? Okay, so if number of goods is greater than 2, then we cannot use this graphical representation, because you see a graph is drawn on a paper or a screen, as you can see, and the screen is 2-dimensional, right? It's a 2-dimensional screen, so you can have only 2 axes, X and Y. Now, if you talk about three goods, you need three-dimensional graphs, and we cannot plot three-dimensional graphs on a paper. We can plot them in a three-dimensional world. But going forward, if you have 4, 5, 6 goods, there's no way we can plot those graphs in the world that we live in. We live in three-dimensional world, so we cannot go beyond 3 dimensions. So in n goods case, I cannot draw a graph and explain it to you. But luckily, the solution does not require a graphical analysis. We can find a solution without the graph. All right, so let's look at the case of n goods. So suppose that I want to maximize the utility function u of x. Now u of x is where x is x vector, such that x vector is basically x1, x2, and so on till xn. So it's really a n-dimensional thing. It's not a scalar, not just x, a number. This is x is a vector now. X1 is amount of good one, x2 is amount of good two, and so on till amount of different goods. So u of x is the utility function for this n-dimensional bundle x. And the budget constraint in this case is p dot x is less than equals to y. Okay. So now from the first, so my objective problem in n goods case, in n goods, the objective problem of the consumer becomes to maximize u of x such that p dot x is less than equals to y, where p vector is basically the vector of prices p1, p2, and so on till pn. Okay. And x vector is, I know, x1, x2, I just established this. This is x1, x2, x3. So p dot x is nothing but p1 x1 plus p2 x2 plus so on till pn xn. What is p1 x1? What is the economic interpretation of p1 x1?
Expenditure on good one.
Very good. Expenditure done on good one. So this is expenditure on good two, and so on. And when I add all these expenditures, I basically get the total expenditure. This is basically total expenditure. So this equation is total expenditure. It should be less than equals to your income. So the right hand side is nothing but the budget constraint. So the right hand side of this thing is p dot x is less than equals to y. Okay. Now certain questions might give you price vectors as prices as non-constant. You can have price as a function of x. Let's say one of the goods is electricity. So we all know that for electricity, the prices change as you change your consumption. So I'll give you the question bank that I'll give you will have a lot of cases in which prices are going to be non-constant. Okay, so like for electricity, the more you consume, the higher the price goes. Then there are a bunch of other things for which the reverse is true. For example, you buy in bulk, you get a lower price. Okay, you go in a supermarket and you find that if you buy 100 grams of something, you have to pay 10 rupees. But if you buy half kg, you have to pay only 40 rupees. So the price reduces as consumption increases. But here, for now, we are going to assume constant prices. But obviously, if the question demands you to change the prices as demand changes, this is where you have to tweak it. Okay. So, what's happening is that I have to maximize utility given this constraint. Now, this constraint is a inequality. Now, I do not want to work with inequality. Okay, I want to convert it into equality. The reason is that the math for inequality constraints and equality constraints are different. But both these things, they come under the ambit of something which is called in maths as constrained optimization. So there are really two types of optimizations. One is constrained optimization, other is unconstrained optimization. So unconstrained optimization is just I give you a function f of x equals to sine x, and I ask you to maximize this. So you know that sine x is maximum at 1. So you pick some value of x so that this thing becomes a maximum. So its max is equal to 1, min is equals to 0. Okay. But let's say I give you a function f of x equals to x cube and ask you to maximize this. So this is a forever increasing function. You can't maximize it. So there's no maxima or minimum. Then there are some other functions, g of x equals to x square, for which there is no maxima, but x equals to 0 is a minimum. Right? At 0, this becomes 0. At any other value, it is positive. So 0 is the minimum. But the higher you keep on going with the magnitude of x, the higher will be the value of x square. So there is no maxima. Now, utility functions are something like this kind of functions. They have a minima in the sense that you consume nothing, you get 0 utility. But they don't seem to have a maxima inside because you keep on consuming more, you keep getting more. So such functions are functions which don't have an internal optimum. They don't have a interior optima. So they have no interior maxima. But suppose I tell you that g of x is defined on the set 0 to 2, say R, and then I ask you to find maximum. Then on 0 to 2, g of x has a maxima on x equals to 2. Right, on 0 to 2, the maximum possible value of x square is at 2, and that is equal to 4. So when I constrain the domain of a function, then I can find a maxima to this thing. So here what we are doing is basically something of the sort. What the left-hand side is a function which probably has no interior optima, but the right-hand side is basically a constraint on the domain of this function. Okay, so we are restraining the domain, the possible values of x to the budget set. So we are not saying that find the maximum of this function in the entire consumption set, because that may not even exist. What we are saying is find the maximum of this function on the budget set. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. So in the 2-dimension case, what we were essentially doing is this was the budget line, right? So we were saying that so this set was the budget set, and we were saying that we have to find an optima in this triangle only. Optimas here, they don't matter. So we are restraining the domain of the function. So in n dimension, we are going to do something similar. But in the world of constraint optimization, there are different, the math changes when this is an inequality or when this is an equality. So I want this thing to be an equality. So for that, I'm going to make use of one of these assumptions. Actually, multiple of these assumptions. So in the last class, I talked about these assumptions that we made. Local non-satiation, no utility from wealth and marketing. Okay. Now, no utility from wealth ensures that a consumer is not going to consume a point within the budget line, right? Because saving money is not going to give him any utility. So he's not going to save any money. Okay. So actually a combination of assumptions 1 and 2, what they mean is that an interior point, local non-satiation means what? A point which is inside the budget line. Suppose this is the budget line. Any point in this, but inside the budget line, this one cannot be the optima on the budget set. Okay, so Local non-satiation means that any point inside the budget line, it cannot be the optima. Why can't it be so? Suppose, so my theorem is that given local non-satiation, any point inside the budget line cannot be the optimum bundle. Why? Because local non-satiation used to say that if I construct any circle around this point, you will always find another point which is strictly preferred to this point. So around this, you will always have another point A prime which is strictly preferred. So A cannot be the optima. It cannot be the maximum utility. Whereas a point on the bundle might be, because it is possible, suppose if a point B is on the budget line, sorry, a point on the budget line can be a optima, because even the local non-satiation applies. It is possible that the bundle which is higher than B, that is B prime, which is higher than B, is not actually inside the budget set. So yeah, B prime is more preferred, but it's not affordable. So B prime is not affordable. Right? So B prime becomes unaffordable, and that's why in such a situation, even though local non-satiation exists, B could actually be the realistic choice that you consume, because even though B prime is giving a higher utility, you can reach it. Whereas when you were at A, the point A prime was more preferred. So it made no sense for you to stick to A, because A prime is giving you a higher utility. Plus it is affordable, right? Plus it is affordable. Now, given the second theorem that there's no point of saving money, if A prime is giving you higher utility, you should definitely go with A prime. Okay, so given the combination of these two assumptions, what I know is that the consumer consumes on the budget line. So the point that the consumer consumes will be on the budget line. So if he consumes on the budget line, what that means is that I can convert this inequality into an equality. That the complete the entire income has to be spent. The expenditure becomes equal to income. Okay. Now in constraint optimization problems where the constraint is an equality, I use something called the Lagrangian method. So what is the Lagrangian method? So let us look at the objective problem. The objective problem is to maximize u of x1, x2, and so on till xn, such that p1 x1 plus p2 x2 and so on till pn xn is equal to income. Okay, so this is the objective problem. So first you write down your objective problem. This is the function that you are optimizing, and this is the constraint. So in the Lagrangian method, what we do is we write a new equation. We say L is equal to u of whatever we are optimizing plus lambda times. You write this equation as, so this equation can very well be written as I minus this thing is equal to 0. So this is the format in which we'll write it. I minus P1 x1 minus P2 x2 minus so on till Pn xn. Okay. Now, what are the unknowns here? What are the unknowns? The things that we are trying to find.
x1, x2 up to xn.
Okay, all the x vectors are unknown. Okay, there are there any more unknowns? Let me ask this question to Anuradha. Anuradha, is there anything else which is unknown here? Unknown is something we are trying to, we don't know the value of.
So price.
Okay, a very good thing. So price is actually an unknown right now because I don't know the number for it, but we don't call it an unknown because price is going to be given to you. So here the things are which the market is
So
not
lambda.
providing me. Lambda, very good. Who gave that answer? Anuradha, was it you?
No, sir.
Yeah, so lambda is another unknown. Very good. So p values, income, so these seem like unknowns because generally till now what we are used to is जो भी number है वो known है, जो alphabet है वो unknown है. That is not how it is. Okay, an unknown is something which is not provided to me. Now imagine yourself as a consumer. So price is there with you. Okay, you can go in the market and find out what the price is. You don't control it. And income is also something which you cannot decide really. But if income is given to you, income is decided, and then you are deciding what bundle to buy. So income has already been decided. Prices are already been set. The only thing that you are going to control is X, and one more unknown is lambda. So lambda is the unknown which we are generating in the Lagrangian method. Okay, so the total number of unknowns in all the X values are unknown. So there are n unknowns here plus one unknown here. So we have n plus one unknowns. Okay, so I and P values we are going to assume are known to whatever the value is. Since we do not want to restrict ourselves with a particular number, that's why we leave them as I and P values so that our theory applies to all values of I and P. Okay, so now these n plus one unknowns, they need n plus one equations. So what are the n plus one equations going to be? Now here's the beauty about Lagrangian method. So if whatever unknowns you have, you differentiate the Lagrangian equation, this equation L, partially differentiate it with respect to that particular value xi, and you equate it to 0. So you get equation number 1 like this. You differentiate it with respect to each of these things. Similarly, del Lagrange by del x2 equals to 0, and so on till del Lagrange by del xn equals to 0, and finally del Lagrange by del lambda is equals to 0 because lambda is also a number. Okay. So let us look at what happens when I am going to differentiate this thing. So remember the rules of differentiation. So when I'm differentiating this u function with respect to x1, I'm going to write it as del u by del x1. Okay, so first I'm differentiating the entire Lagrangian equation with respect to x1, which is basically this equation, plus lambda times, inside this function x1 appears only here, and this x1 is multiplied with minus p1. So I can write this as minus p1. Everything else does not have any representation of x1, so it cancels out. So lambda times minus p1 equals to 0, which basically gives me that lambda is equals to del u by del x1 upon p1. So this is the value of lambda. This is some equation that I got. Let me call this as equation number 2. That's the equation number 1. Now equation number 2 is when I differentiate it with respect to x2. So del u by del x2 plus lambda times, okay, where's the equation? Yeah, when I differentiate this with respect to x2, I get del u by del x2. Now in this particular right hand side, lambda is multiplied, so it remains as it is, and this is the only part of the function where x2 is present. So this becomes plus lambda times of minus p2, which basically gives me lambda equals to del u by del x2 by p2. And similarly, you can get multiple equations. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to focus on these two equations. These two equations, what they give me is that the left-hand sides of these two equations is same, so the right-hand sides need to be same. So what I'll get is del u by del x1 by p1 is equals to del u by del x2 by p2, which can be equivalently written as del u by del x1 by del u by del x2 equals to p1 by p2, which is nothing but MRS of goods 1 and 2 equals to price ratio of goods 1 and 2. And this should be true for the combination of any two goods, not just 1 and 2. You can find this, you can make any good as good 1 and any good as good 2, you know. So in general, for any two goods I and j, you should have MRS of goods I and j should be equals to price ratio of goods I and j. So for any pair of goods, the marginal rate at which the consumer is willing to substitute between the goods should be equal to price ratio. And finally, the n plus 1th equation is del Lagrange by del lambda equals to 0. So when you do that, where's the equation? Yeah. When you differentiate with respect to lambda, this part has no role of lambda. So this thing completely becomes 0. This internal thing has nothing in lambda, only the external thing has lambda in it. So this lambda becomes 1, everything else remains. So what you get is when you differentiate with respect to lambda is just I minus p dot x is equals to 0, which is basically I equals to p dot x, which is basically your budget line. So this is your MRS equals to price ratio. This is your budget line or budget constraint. So the equations are same in n dimensions, but now I did not derive it graphically, I derived it mathematically. Now for most questions, you can just remember these two things, MRS equals to price ratio and budget line, and you can solve it. But there are going to be questions where these are not going to be sufficient, so you might have to construct a Lagrangian. Okay, so my recommendation would be in the initial few days when you're solving questions, do make the Lagrangian and solve them. And once you have confidence in your math, then you can basically skip the Lagrangian steps. Okay. So let us do a couple of examples now. Suppose utility equals to under root xy, or let's just say xy. Utility is xy, and price of good 1 is 4. Price of good 2 is 6, and income is 24. So find the optimal bundle x star. Sorry, price of good x is 4. Price of good y is 6. X star comma y star. Find the optimal bundle. So this is your first question. And the second question is utility equals to x square yz. Let's just stick with xyz. Let's not complicate it. Px equals to okay, यहाँ थोड़ा complicate कर सकता हूँ. Xy square. Let me put xy square. Yeah. Okay. Utility is xy square. All right. Here, what I have is 4 and 6. Yeah. Px equals to 2. Py equals to 3. PZ equals to 4, income equals to 36. Okay, find X star, comma, Y star, comma, Z star. So these are the two quick questions that you have. I'm giving you 10 minutes. It's 5:55 on my clock. So I'm muting myself and I'll unmute myself at 6:05. So I hope you can see all the things now. So these left hand side things might help you solve the question. And the right hand side, I've given you the numbers. Okay. All right. So what is the answer for this one?
Sir, 2,8/3.
Okay.
2,
Any other
3.
answers?
I got
2,
3, 2.
3, 2. So we have 2, 3 as an answer. Sorry, 3, 2 as an answer, and 2, 3/2 as an answer. No, 2/3, right?
So 8/3.
8/3. Okay. All right. So the first thing is always to find MRS. MRS is del U by del X upon del U by del Y. What is del U by del X? When I differentiate it with respect to X, Y is constant. So this is Y square into differentiation of X. So differentiation of just X is 1, right? And when I differentiate with respect to Y, X is deemed to be constant. So I'll write X as it is into differentiation of Y square. So differentiation of Y square is, so remember that differentiation of Y to power alpha is alpha Y to power alpha minus 1. So differentiation of Y square will be 2Y to the power 2 minus 1. So that is just 1. So that is just Y to power 1 is Y. So X into 2Y. So Y get cancelled. So this becomes Y by 2X. And this should be equal to price ratio. Price ratio is 4/6. Okay, so price ratio should be equal to 4/6. So what I get is, you can write this as 2, 3. So what I get is 4x equals to 3. 4x equals to 3y. This is the MRS equals to price ratio equation. The next is budget line equation. So budget line is you just substitute xy into this px and py and equate it to I. So what I get is 24 equals to 4 times x plus 6 times y. Now 4 times x is nothing but 3 times y. So I can make that substitution. So this is 3y plus 6y. So that is equals to 9y. So 9y is equals to 24, which implies y should be equal to 24/9, which is 8/3. And then x is nothing but 3/4 times of y. So x is 3/4 times y, and y is 8/3. So that should be equal to 2. So x is 2 and y is 8/3. So 2,8/3 is the correct answer.
So by mistake, I did it for U is equal to XY. That's why I got 3/3, 2.
Okay. Next question, XYZ. Any answers for this one?
So 27/5, 18/5, 18/5.
So you're getting Y and Z equal.
I'm getting 6, 4, and 3.
Okay. Any other answers? None. Okay. So let's look at how to do this one. So first, let's fix on X and Y. So what I get is del U by del X upon del U by del Y. This should be equal to PX upon PY. This was the MRS equals to price ratio rule for goods IJ, right? This was it. Now, what is del U by del X? When I differentiate with respect to X, I'm going to keep YZ as constant. So the numerator is just YZ, and differentiating X will give me just 1. So that is just YZ. Whereas differentiating this thing with respect to Y, X and Z will remain constant. Okay, and this should be equal to Px upon Py. So that is 2/3. You can cancel out the z. So what you get is 2x equals to 3y. Right. So 2x equals to 3y is one of the equations. The other equation would be similarly for y and z. Y and z, I'll get del u by del y upon del u by del z is equals to py by pz. Now del u by del y, by similar logic, when I differentiate with respect to y, it's just xz. When I differentiate with respect to z, it's just xy. Py is 3, pz is 4. X and x cancels out. So what you get is 4z equals to 3y. Okay. The last equation will not give you anything new. So in this situation, you don't need to work out with the last equation. I'll show you in a moment why. But before that, appreciate this thing that what we have got till now is 2x equals to 3y and 3y equals to 4z. So obviously we'll get 2x equals to 4z. And this is essentially what we'll get when we solve the pair x and z. But let's do it because in the initial days it's always better. So del u by del x upon del u by del z should be equal to px by pz. Now I always recommend you to write this thing first as it is, like this, and then proceed to solve. What happens is that sometimes you don't write this right hand part and you think that first I'll proceed with this and then write the price ratio. So let us proceed and see what pitfall can happen. So then when you differentiate with respect to x, it gives you yz. When you differentiate with respect to z, it gives you xy. So this becomes z by x. And then in haste, you might write this as pz by px. Whereas it should have been px by pz because x is in the numerator when you were differentiating. So you would get wrong results here. So don't do that. Always write the price ratio here itself so that you don't commit a mistake later on. So z by x is equals to px by pz, which is basically, what is px? Px is 2 by 4, which implies that 4z is equals to 2x, which is basically the same thing I told you we'll be getting. So solving for the third pair is really not important. So this is something we get from experience, that solving for the third thing is not really important. You solve two of these pairs and you get the third equation automatically. Okay. Now the last thing is the budget constraint. So what is the budget constraint? The budget constraint is px times x plus py times y plus pz times z is equals to income was 36. So you can put px, py, pz values. So they are 2, 3, and 4. So let me put them. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now from here, what I can write is I can say that I can divide this entire equation by 2. Right. So x equals to 3 by 2y, or y equals to 2 by 3x. So I can write that as an equation. So y can be written as 2 by 3x. So 2x plus 3 times 2 by 3x plus these two things give me that x equals to 4 by 2z. So that is 2z, which implies that z equals to x by 2. So I can write this as x by 2 because z is equals to x by 2. So this is equals to 36. Right. So now I have all the things in terms of just one variable, and that is x. And then you can write 2x plus 2x plus 2x equals to 36, which implies 6x equals to 36, which implies x equals to 6. Okay, so you get x equals to 6 here. And then you can just substitute everything. So y is 2 by 3x. So y becomes equal to 4 and z is x by 2. So z becomes equals to 3. So the final bundle is, yeah, the final bundle is 6, 4, 3. Right, 6, 4, 3. So this is the correct answer. Okay. All right. So this is how you need to solve such questions. So there'll be more such questions in the problem sets and and the test banks that I give you. So these are questions where Lagrange is usable. Then there are going to be questions where Lagrange is not usable, which are basically non-well behaving cases. So we'll also look at that. But before that, let us look at this particular format. Okay, so this is basically a rearrangement of MRS equals to price ratio, right? So this is your MRS equals to price ratio. Now, if you take PI here and you take this del U by del XJ here, what you get is this thing. Del U by del XI upon PI is equals to del U by del XJ upon PJ. Now, the thing is that these two things need to be equal. What it means is that, what is the meaning of this left-hand side? So the left-hand side del U by del Xi is just marginal utility of good I. Which is basically change in utility when consumption of good I increases by 1 unit. Okay, so marginal utility of good I is change in utility when you increase consumption of good I by 1 unit. That is the definition, because marginal utility of good I is nothing but del U by del Xi. So this is the definition of differentiation, right? Del U by del Xi. Okay. So marginal utility, so MUI is change in utility when consumption of good I increases by 1 unit. So what is the amount of expenditure which needs to go up for consumption of good I to increase by 1 unit? Let me ask this question to Kashish. So Kashish, if you want to increase consumption of good I by 1 unit, if you want to consume 1 unit extra of good I, what is the additional income that you need to spend? What is the amount, extra amount that you need to spend?
So in terms of like,
what is the price of good I? It's PI. So suppose I want to consume 1 more unit of good XI. So how much extra money I need to spend?
piece 2 PI?
No, just PI. Suppose a dairy milk costs 10 rupees. If I want to consume 1 more dairy milk, I'll spend 10 rupees extra, right? So the amount of expenditure needs to go up by PI units. Okay. So if I increase expenditure by PI, let me write it here. So if you increase expenditure on good XI by PI, utility increases by MUI. Okay. So PI is some number, MUI is some number. I don't know what these numbers are. PI could be 10, MUI could be 0.7. I don't know. There are some numbers I don't care about, but they are numbers. Okay. So next question is to who is here? Yeah, Vinay.
Yes, sir.
So if I increase expenditure on Xi by Pi, my marginal utility goes up by MUI. So if I were to increase expenditure on Xi by 1 rupee, utility would go up by how much? Simple unitary method. Nothing else.
It would be 1 into marginal utility of I. So like mu into I.
That is just MUI.
Yes, sir.
So if I increase expenditure by Pi, utility changes by same. If I increase it by 1, utility changes by same. So how much I spend has no impact on my margin on utility. Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean,
Let me ask you a
that's not the
simpler
case, sir.
question. Let me ask you a simpler question. If for 100 rupees,
Okay.
you can buy 2 chocolates, for 10 rupees, how many chocolates can you buy?
2 tenths of a chocolate.
2 by 10.
Yes, sir.
And for 1 rupee, how much chocolate can you buy?
2 by 100.
2 by 100. Okay. So forget this. Suppose Pi is 100, MUI is 2. Now again, let's try. If expenditure increases by 1, how much will be increased in utility?
MUI
this
by
example.
PI.
Very good. So this is simple unitary method we used to do in school.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yes.
So if expenditure on Xi increased by Pi, my marginal utility would go up by MUI. If expenditure increased by 1, marginal utility would go up by MUI by PI. So MUI by PI is nothing but change in utility if expenditure on good I increases by 1 rupee. So if you were to somehow find 1 rupees and you put this in, suppose somehow you got 1 rupee extra from somewhere and you put this 1 rupee in good I, your utility would go up by MUI by PI. Okay. So the theorem is, the result is MUI by PI is equals to MUJ by PJ. So this basically says that if you increase expenditure on good I by 1 rupees, this is going to be the change in utility. Instead, if you were to increase this 1 rupee, instead of putting it in UI, if you were to put it in UJ, this will be the change in utility. And it's going to be the same. What it means is that after you have consumed all your money, after you have bought the bundle and everything, suppose you find you have some income I. Okay, with this income I, you find the optimal bundle U of X star. Sorry, X star. You go to the shop and you buy X star. And when you were just leaving shop, you find out that there's 1 rupees extra in your pocket. Now this 1 rupee extra, it does not matter where you spend. You can spend it on good I, or you can spend it on good J, or you can spend it on any other good. At the optimum, where you spend this extra 1 rupee is immaterial. That is the idea, that at the margin, it does not matter where you spend the last rupee of money on that you get. Okay, so it's a powerful thing. Unfortunately, it does not come much it's not of much help for us in solving problems, but I like to talk about it because I feel that sometimes it is possible that maybe some examiner asks you about it. Hasn't happened yet, so I don't know if it can happen in the future, but it's good to know this thing. It is completely possible that in an interview they ask you the implication of this result, MUI by PI equals to MUJ by PJ. So the result is important in the sense that at the margin, if you get 1 rupee extra, it does not matter where you spend this extra last 1 rupee. You can spend it on any of the goods. The change in utility would be the same. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's look at indirect utility functions. So like I told you, the important thing is always finding X star. Finding X star is the important thing. But sometimes it might be the case that the examiner asks you for the optimal utility. So now I want to find the utility level for the optimal bundle. So if I go back to the problems that I gave you, so in this case, I found the optimal bundle to be 2,8/3. So how do I find the optimal utility? So optimal utility is basically utility level at 2,8/3. So just substitute 2 here and 8/3 here. So that is 64, 2s are 128/9. So that is the optimal utility in this case. Okay, optimal utility in this case, the optimal bundle was 643. So the optimal utility U star would be 6 into 4 into 3. So that is equals to 2072. So this is the optimal utility. Now, if somebody asks me what is the optimal utility, what is U star, what I do is step 1 is find the optimum bundle X star. Steps 2 is put this optimal bundle in the utility function to get the optimal utility U star. So this is a 2-step process. Step 1, find X star. Step 2, find U at X star. Okay. So in the last math class, we talked about composite functions. So in composite functions, what we saw is that suppose this function f, which takes you from this set A to B, and another function g, which takes you from B to C. So the function f of g, g of f, will directly take you from A to C. All right, so this was composite functions. So you can think of the function f as basically finding X star, and function g as U at X star. So the composite function g of f, what it does is you start with some income and price vector, and it automatically gives you the optimal utility for these different points. So A is basically set of income and prices of different individuals. So suppose you are studying 10 different individuals, and each of these individuals has a particular income and they are living in different cities, let's say, so they face different price levels. So each individual is living in different income and price vector regime. So if somebody asks you to find the utility level for all these people, you will have to, the conventional way that we did in like this time, what you would do is you'll find the optimal bundle for each of these people, and then from optimum bundle you will find the optimal utility. But if you were able to find this function directly, which takes you from income and prices directly to utility level, then what you would do is you would save this 2-step process and convert into this 1-step process. So the function which takes you directly from income and prices to the utility level is called an indirect utility function. It's the indirect utility function, IUF. So indirect utility function directly takes you from different I and P ratios to the utility levels. So how do I find that? So the steps are similar to using the Lagrangian. It's just that I will not give you the I and P values. You'll keep them as unknown. So let us take the same example as we did earlier, xy square. Suppose utility equals to xy square. So in this case, I'll not give you px and py and I values. We'll keep them as unknown constants. Okay, so these are not variables, but they are constants. Still, they are unknown to you. The benefit of keeping them as unknown constants is that you can put different values of I and p depending on which individual you are studying, and accordingly you will get this final result. So let's take this example of xy square is your example to solve. I'll solve the example of xy. Xy square will be the one which we'll be solving in some time. So utility equals to xy. So MRS is equals to y by x, which should be equals to px upon py, which implies px that xpx should be equal to ypy. Okay. Now budget constraint is pxx plus pyy is equals to I. Now from here I know that xpx equals to ypy, so I can substitute this thing here. So what I get is I can substitute this thing as ypy. So ypy plus pyy is equals to I, which implies 2 times py times y is equals to I, which implies that y star is equals to I by 2py. And when I take this y star and put it back in here, what I get is x star into px is equals to y is I by 2py into py. So the optimal bundle x star is equals to I by 2px. So the optimum bundle x star comma y star is equals to I by 2px comma I by 2py. Okay, so I start from I and p regime and I can get this thing, the x star y star function. So this x star y star function will basically be I by 2px comma I by 2py. So for different values of I and p, I can find out what the optimum bundle for different individuals is. So I don't need to solve this thing again and again. Okay, so one obvious thing here is that all the consumers have the same budget value. Okay, so so the advantage of this you can see in an Excel sheet. Okay, so from an Excel sheet, imagine that you have a column on incomes of people, you have another column on px, you have another column on py. Okay, so suppose, so you can write this new column as x star and new column as y star, and you can give this equation here x star. So function would be equal to equal to this divided by 2 times this. How do you write this? 2 times this.
So 2 asterisk
2
sign.
times. Oh, yes. Oh, thanks. So you can write this thing. Why did it come as A2? I'm not good at this. Right. All right. So this becomes the thing. So you can write different income values. So let's say the income is 50, px is 25, 23, and so on. Wait, why did it come as 575? A2. You get the idea. I don't know. I have not worked with Excel ever, so I don't know. Yeah. So this seems more correct. So similarly, you can have different I values for all these different people, different px values. Similarly, you can define y star, and now you don't need to solve it again and again. You can just put the the entire column for income, entire column for PX, and entire column for PY, and you'll get this X star and Y star value. So you don't have to work with for each person separately. Okay. Now the final step is going from here to here. This step going from B to C. So this is just you put X star in the utility function. So the utility function was XY. So the final U star is just I by 2px into I by 2py. So that is just I square by 4px py. So you can again write an equation here about, again, you can write this, you can define a new column as U star, and then you can write the functional format of U star as this formula. Okay, I square by 4px py, and that would give you all the utility values for different people. So that is the advantage of using this indirect utility function. So your problem now is finding the indirect utility function for these two cases, right? Utility equals to xy square. Okay, and your homework would be utility equals to xy square. So xy square you have to do now. So you can make use of this entire math which I just gave you, and you can build on it. Obviously, MRS is going to be different, so things are going to be different, but that's how you begin. So you have 5 minutes, 6:36 on my clock. So it's 6:37 now. So 6:42. So to 6:42. For U equals to xy square, I want the indirect utility function like this format. It will be a function of I, px, and py. It will not be a function of x and y. X and y should not be a part of the final answer. Okay. So what's the answer?
So 4i cube 4i cube by 27 px py square.
Yes, I also got the same.
27 px py square. Any
Yes,
other
So I-
answers? Yeah.
So 2i square by 9 px py.
By 9 px py.
Yes.
Okay. Any other sort of answers? Anybody wants to contribute? Okay, so let's look at this. So we have MRS is del u by del x upon del u by del y. So that would be equal to del u by del x is y square, del u by del y is 2xy. So this should be equal to px upon py. Y and y get cancelled out. So what you get is that ypy equals to 2xpx. The budget constraint is pxx plus pyy equals to I. Now pyy is equals to 2xpx. So you can make that substitution here. So what you get is pxx plus 2pxx is equals to I, which implies that pxx equals to I by 3. So x star is really I by 3px. So by that logic, y star is equals to px by py into 2x star. So y star would be equals to I by 3px into 2px by py. So you can cancel the px and px here. So this becomes 2I by 3py. So this is your y star. Now, final thing, utility is xy square. So instead of x, you write I by 3px. And instead of y, you write 2 by 3 I by py whole square. So this whole square is important. So what you get is 4i cube by 9 into, 3 into 9 is 27px into py square. Right? So 4i cube by 27px py square. So yeah, this one's the correct answer. 4i cube by 27px py square.
Yeah, I forgot to square it. Sir.
I realized it when you were giving the answer. But I didn't want to give a spoiler. Anyway, so that's how you do such questions. Now UXYZ is your homework. Obviously, you can work with it. So the idea is you keep I, PX, and PYs. You don't reveal them. So this is the indirect utility function. Now let's look at some properties of indirect utility function. By the way, the x star y star that we find is called the Marshallian demand function. Okay, so the x star y star that we find, even in this case, x star comma y star is basically what I by 3px comma 2I by 3py. So this is your Marshallian demand function MDF. Your Marshallian demand function. So Marshallian demand function is the demand vector when the consumer is maximizing utility for a given income. Okay, so MDF is basically the consumer's demand when maximizing utility for a given income and price. So when income and prices are given and you try to maximize utility, the function of demand that you get is called Marshallian demand function. Okay. So it's generally called as X star. The function Marshallian demand is represented as X star. It's a function of prices and income. And the indirect utility function is given the name V. So indirect utility function IDF is called V of I comma P vector. So this is the nomenclature. Indirect utility function is represented by the alphabet V. Okay, so that's about indirect utility function. Now let us look at some problems. So if you go into the problem sets here, PS1 is problem set 1 here. So if you go into this one, you will see, come to question number 2. Wait. Okay, come to question number 2 here. We have a bunch of different problems to solve. So in this, we want to find the indirect utility functions for different cases. So let us look at a few cases. So I want you to work on these cases, and obviously I'm going to discuss them, but right now I'm going to take a few of these. So let me take the first one, that is 3x plus ln y. So that's your homework. All these different subsections is your homework. So the question is, find the indirect utility function IUF for utility equals to 3x plus ln y, right? So the first step is always you keep income and price vectors as unknown constants. So you just proceed with the general utility maximization, assuming that I, P, X, Py are unknown constants. So what we get is MRS equals to del U by del X upon del U by del Y. When you differentiate this function with respect to X, this thing has X, this thing has no X. So this thing will vanish, it will become 0. Differentiation of 3x is 3. And when you differentiate with respect to y, this thing has y, this thing has no y. So this thing vanishes. Differentiation of log y is 1 by y. So MRS is just 3 upon 1 by y, so that is 3y. Now in order to solve this, I want you all to be able to do differentiation. So as I told you, there are some differentiation videos which I'll be uploading. I'm sorry, I forgot to do it. I actually uploaded them on YouTube and then I forgot to share it on the application. So I'll upload those videos on derivatives so that you guys can watch some videos and do some problems from that. Okay, so MRS is 3 times y, and this should be equal to price ratio Px upon Py, which basically gives that y star should be equals to Px by 3Py. Okay, by the way, such class of utility functions are called quasi-linear. Quasi-linear or quasi-linear utility functions. The word quasi is basically partial. So this part is linear, this part is non-linear. So it's partially linear, and that's why we call it quasi-linear. So y star is equals to Px by 3Py. Right, so y star is Px by 3Py. So now what we get is that the optimal amount of good y is always equals to this much. So optimal amount of good x, how do we find optimal amount of good x now? Using budget constraint. So budget constraint is Px x star plus Py y star is equals to income. You put this value of y star here. So what you get is Px x star plus Py into Px by 3Py is equals to I. So cancel the Py values. What you get is Px by 3. So x star, Px x star equals to I minus Px by 3, which implies x star is equals to I by Px minus 1 by 3. So this is the optimal amount of good X that you want to consume. The optimal amount of good Y is this one. So this is good Y, this is good X. But you could run into a problem here. Okay, so suppose I just report that my final X star comma Y star is Px by 3 Py comma I by Px minus 1 by 3. I could run into some problem here. What could be the problem which can happen? Can anybody point it out?
So the income spent on Y is same. That is, we are consuming, like we are spending the same amount on Y.
Okay, expenditure on Y, same, but that is not a problem. Actually, expenditure, the income, the amount spent on Y is Px by 3. That is not really a problem.
So the expenditure on Y is not constrained by the income of the consumer.
But that is not really the problem. I mean, you can think of good Y as a medicine, a necessary medicine. All right. So now, no matter how rich you are, if the doctor has prescribed, let's say, some 4 units of this medicine, din mein do sham ko, then no matter how rich you are not going to consume more than 4 units of this medicine. So you can imagine it like that. Okay. So yeah, so that is not the problem I'm looking for here, that Y star. The problem that I'm looking for here, the hint is it lies in X star. Focus on
So
X
if
star.
I by Px is less than 1 by 3, then the consumption of X will be negative, which is not
Exactly.
possible.
Yeah, exactly. So I have already told you that X and Y are always belonging to R plus. Okay. So R plus does not allow for negative amounts of consumption. But what if this I by Px is less than 1 by 3? This thing becomes in negative territory. So what's happening here is that the ideal consumption of good Y is some fixed amount, this much. Okay. But in order to buy this much amount of good Y, the expenditure on good Y has to be equal to Px by 3. So you need to spend Px by 3 amount on good Y. But what if your actual income is less than Px by 3? Suppose Px is 300 rupees. So you want to spend 300 by 3, that is 100 bucks on good Y. That is your expenditure on good Y. But what if your actual income is just 50 rupees? So in that case, I cannot consume the Y star amount that I'm looking for. Okay, so that's why we are getting a negative result here, because we are automatically assuming that you are consuming Y star, and the remaining amount the remaining amount goes into consumption of good X. So we are assuming by default that you are spending 100 rupees on good Y. So for a person with income 50, when you remove 100, you are left with minus 50, and that is giving a negative consumption value for good X. So in effect, what happens is that this is a consumption bundle only if income is greater than this expenditure on Y, which basically says that only if I is greater than Px by 3. But in the situation where I is less than or equal to Px by 3, so now what happens is, if you are not rich enough, you will spend all your income on good Y. So you'll spend everything you have on good Y. So the amount of good Y that you will purchase. Okay, so let me ask this question to who didn't get opportunity today. I think I have not asked any question to Yuakshi. Yuakshi,
Yes,
are you
sir.
with us? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So assuming a consumer has income I, price of Px is Px, price of Py is Py, what is the maximum amount of good Y that this consumer can consume?
Sir, I by Py.
Very good. I by Py. Okay. So he consumes I by Py amount of good Y. When he consumes this much amount of good Y, what is the amount of good X that he consumes?
Sir, I minus, sir, whatever is left, that is divided by
So-
Px.
What is left?
I
That is what
minus
I'm asking.
I minus I by Py upon Px.
No. So okay. So he's consuming I by Py amount of good Y. All right. So what is the expenditure on good Y?
Sir,
If you're consuming this much amount of good Y and the price of good Y is Py, what is the total expenditure you're doing on good Y? If you're buying 5 stars, or let's say 3 5 stars, each costs
no
rupees 10.
expenditure.
What is the expenditure on 5 stars? 3 5 stars for 10 rupees, total expenditure kya hoga?
Sir, 30.
I by Py of good Y, this is the amount of good Y. This is the price of good Y. So what is the total expenditure on good Y?
So we are expending total on good Y, so nothing we will be spending on X.
Very good. So what is the amount of good X that you consume?
0x.
Very good. That's what I'm looking for. So when you're consuming Y max, you're basically spending everything on good X. So nothing is left for good Y. So Y becomes 0. All right. So in this quasi-linear case, what happens is if you are rich, you'll consume a fixed amount of good X. If you're rich, you consume a fixed amount of good X. If you're poor, you consume nothing of good. Sorry, yeah, nothing. No, wait, ulta likh diya maine. Sorry, I 0, I by Py. Yeah. So if you are poor, I made a mistake everywhere actually. This should be I reversed I X and P, X and Y. So this should be what is Y star? Px by 3 Py. And X star is I by Px minus 1 by 3. Okay, yeah. So when you're rich, that is in this case, you consume a fixed amount of good Y, which is independent of your income. But when you're poor, which is this case, you consume no amount of good X. Okay. So the example of a medicine fits perfectly into this bill. So suppose X is a non-necessity good and Y is a medicine that you need to survive. So if you are very rich, you'll just eat the medicine in the amount which is prescribed, which is something fixed. But if you are poor, then you'll only buy the medicine and nothing else. That is the idea. If the other thing is a non-necessity good, obviously, you don't need the other thing to survive. The X is not a necessity good. So this is the case of quasi-linear preferences. Okay, let's look at one more case, alpha X plus beta Y. So what the indirect utility? Okay, finally, indirect utility function ke liye you just find u star. U star will be equal to you put these values when in I is large. What was utility value? Utility was 3x plus ln y. So utility equals to 3 times I by px minus 1 by 3 plus ln of px by 3py. Okay, this is when income is greater than px by 3, and it will be equal to ln of I by py. Basically, the first term is 0, right? So this becomes 3 times 0 plus ln of I by py for I less than or equal to px by 3. So this is the complete characterization of your indirect utility function. Okay. So in the next class, I want you to probably draw some graph about ICs of these functions, this function and the next function. Okay, and we'll discuss the ICs of these functions. Let me take the example D here. The rest of these are your homeworks. So we have looked at how to draw the indifference curves for these cases. Now you have to do utility maximization. So let's look at example D. So D is alpha x plus beta y. So that's the last thing we do for today. So utility equals to alpha x plus beta y. Okay, so that's my utility function. So I know the indifference curves, the slope of the indifference curves. I'm going to ask this to Ananya. Ananya, what's going to be the slope of indifference curves?
Sir, it will be minus alpha upon beta.
Very good. Very good. So always remember, okay, so nobody has a doubt in this case, I hope. If anybody has, this is the time to ask. The slope will be minus alpha by beta. Okay, so this will be the ICs. Let's say these are the indifference curves that I have. Okay. Now, so this thing has a slope of minus alpha by beta. Now my budget line is I equals to pxx plus py y. So let me ask this question to who's not answered. Everybody's answered. So yeah, Vinay, what will be the slope of this thing?
Minus px by py.
Minus px by py. Yeah. Actually, I should have drawn this thing in red. Let me change it. Okay, so these are your ICs in red with slope minus alpha by beta. Okay. Now, slope of the budget line is minus px by py. Slope of this thing is alpha by beta. Now, let us forget the negative sign for the time being. And let us consider the situation where alpha by beta is greater than px by py. So in this case, what we'll see is that the budget line, it would be flatter in terms of the magnitude of the slope. Px by py is smaller. So it would basically look something like this. Okay. So this is the case where the budget line is flatter, whereas the case where alpha by beta is less than px by py, it will be a case when the budget line is steeper. So that would basically look something like this. The green case. So consider the black case for the time being. Let me remove this green one. And consider this is the situation that I'm working with. Okay. So which of the points, so obviously, if I try to find MRS equals to price ratio, which is the tangency condition, I will never find a tangency condition. So this will be a case of no solution, because MRS equals to price ratio will never have a solution, because all these lines have different slope as compared to the budget line. The budget line always has a slope minus px by py. The ICs always have a slope minus alpha by beta, and clearly I've established that these are different. So you'll never have any solution to the Lagrangian case or to MRS equals to price ratio and budget line. Budget line and MRS equals to price ratio, these two equations, if you put them, you'll get no solution. Okay. So now I have to look at the corners. The corners of the budget line are essentially the x-intercept, which is basically I by px comma 0 and 0 comma I by py. So I'll just write it as I by py. So my next question is to Kashish. So if my indifference curves look like this, they are increasing in upward direction. So this is, let's say, utility U0, this is U1, this is U2, and so on. This is the y-intercept, this is the x-intercept. So Kashish, my question is,
Yes,
which
sir.
of these intercepts will give a higher utility? Will it be x-intercept or will it be y-intercept? Which of these points is on a higher indifference curve?
So X.
X-intercept, very good, because this is on a high, this point, like the red lines are the indifference curves, right? So this point is on a higher indifference curve, so x-intercept is going to be a higher utility indifference. So this point is going to be the ideal point. So whenever you have a situation where the budget line is flatter than the indifference curve, you'll go to the x-intercept. Whereas the opposite will happen when you have situation like this. Now it's the y-intercept which will have the higher utility. So in this case, you will go to the y-intercept. Okay. So in this case, if you're going to the x-intercept, the consumption bundle becomes, supposing income is I, Px, and Py. The consumption bundle would be, yes, Anuradha. What will be the consumption bundle if you are consuming at only good X? What will be the consumption bundle?
Sir, I by px and 0.
Okay, and continuing from here, Anuradha, what will be the consumption bundle on y-intercept?
Sir, 0 and I by py.
Very good, perfect. Okay, so that's going to be the consumption. So this is your x star y star if alpha y beta is greater than px by py, and this is your x star y star if this is true. So finally, from here, remember utility is alpha x plus beta y. So in this case, utility u star will be equal to alpha I by px, and here utility u star will be beta I by py. So your final result, you can write in this format that the optimum bundle x star y star is equal to, sorry, not x star y star. Fine, I'm writing indirect utility function. So v of the v function is alpha I by px if alpha by beta is greater than px by py, and it is equals to beta I by py if alpha by beta is less than px upon py. And in case of equality, what happens is, the case of equality is very simple. So that is a case where the budget line is parallel to one of the indifference curves. So in that case, you consume here or here or here or here or here, everywhere you're on the same indifference curve. So in case of equality, you can go to any point on the budget line or you can go to any of the intercepts. It makes no difference. So I'll just put equality in any situation, any of these two cases. I can write the final answer like this, or it could like it, I could write it like this. It will not make a difference. Okay. So this is how you write the indirect utility function.